Hello, good morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you are hearing us from. I am Sharon Roberson Pender, and I'm the President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council and the operator of the Virginia Minority Business Development Agency Business Center. As an organization, CRMSDC is one of 23 affiliates of the National Minority Supply Development Council, the nation's premier certifying body of minority businesses. Our mission 50 years later remain the same, and that is to certify, connect, develop, and advocate for and on behalf of minority owned businesses. In today's episode, I'm so excited. We celebrate Women's History Month because we're telling her story, and we're doing this in this episode by featuring three dynamic women business owners who are paving the way in the retail space. Not always an easy space, but a creative space. In a moment, I'll introduce you to each of them, but more importantly, we invite you to sit back, relax, and listen to this episode of Coffee, Tea, and Hot Sauce. Coffee, Tea, and Hot Sauce. You'll learn more about how they've made inroads and how they have beaten the odds and continue to beat the odds in this ever challenging and changing industry. But before I get started on our panelists, let me take time to recognize those folks who are responsible of making this podcast happen. Thank you to our title sponsors, Exelon, which for us is comprised of BGE and Exelon Company, Pepco and Exelon Company, Capital One, Mass Mutual, AMCUS, SB and Company, Tidings and Rosenberg LLP, and the Virginia MBDA Business Center. So let me introduce the panelists for today. I'm going to bring them on one by one. And the first person I want to tell you about is Savannah Mitchell, and she's president of Sunday Morning Roasting Company. I want to hear about how it became Sunday morning and not Saturday night or Friday night. Savannah Mitchell is president, as I said, of Sunday Morning Roasting Company. She received her education from Howard University, majoring in business administration with a focus on hospitality management. Shortly after graduation, Savannah started her own catering and events planning company and dove into the deep end of entrepreneurship. She has won dozens of small contracts and opened up a small delicatessen where she served gourmet soups, sandwiches, coffees, and desserts part time and worked a full time job. But after years of traveling the world searching for the most premium and sustainable coffee bean farmers, she discovered a fair trade roaster that aligned with her integrity and values. 9 months after opening her business, she became certified by us, and the brand she has successfully launched, has become a supplier for Amazon, Walmart, Wegmans, Staples, and other private firms, restaurants, and hotels. And she's been featured on air, whether it's Channel 7, NBC4, or the Afro, just to name a few. So, ladies and gentlemen, Savannah Mitchell. Hello, Savannah.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, as you stated, President Pender. Yes, it is absolutely my pleasure to be here.
Okay, and I'm going to introduce a couple more of your sisters in the retail space. I'm going to now bring on Akeisha Little, president of the Sweet Life of Tea. The Sweet Life of Tea. She has a bachelor's degree and MBA in accounting. Additionally, she has over 20 years of experience in operational accounting and also serves as a certified financial life coach, a certified a tax consultant, and a certified bookkeeper. So her finances will always be in order. She began this tea journey once she visited a tea room and she was served loose leaf tea rather. She became committed to learning everything she could about tea, from collecting teaware to taking classes, learning about the healthy benefits of tea. In 2022, so she's a new launcher, the Sweet Life of Tea was launched. Her company creates and sells custom tea blends to soothe the body, mind, and soul. And she hosts afternoon tea parties. I want to go to one of those. She has blending workshops and teaches tea etiquette. Do we have to like hold our finger up or something? The motto is we drink to live and live to drink. Ladies and gentlemen, Akeisha. Hello there.
Hello.
And we're going to bring on one other sister here in the retail space, and that is Tracy Tisdale Richardson, co founder and CEO of Lilies of Charleston. So, Tracy is the co founder of and CEO of Lilies of Charleston. She is also a graduate of the other HU, Hampton. But we're not going to have that discussion today, Howard and Hampton, and holds a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon University, Heinz School of Public Policy and Arts Management, and the Harrington School of Design. Tracy has led her family's specialty food company, Lilies of Charleston, since 2001, where they specialize in hot sauces, and I've had some barbecue sauces, yes, seasoning mixes. Her entrepreneurial venture was co founded by her sister, Kelly Wicker, using the recipes of their father's restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina, called the Rib Shack. In 2010,
Mm.
the sisters won first place in the Scovie Awards for their hot mustard barbecue sauce, and I got that in my pantry too, called Have Mercy. I got to see if I'm saying that right. Don't you love that name? She's a self proclaimed foodie. She combines her love of design and food at her company's. Lilia Charleston's company motto is May you never feel unwanted, unloved, or hungry. Let's bring on Tracy.
Greetings, everybody.
How's everybody? Okay, so ladies, thank you so much for doing this coffee, tea, and hot sauce. And we want to spend this time, of course, learning about your decision to go to entrepreneurs. Because when reading your backgrounds, the one thing that came clear for me, what rang, was that there was some preparation in your life in terms of being able to use, whether it was your accounting background, your design background, your degree of where that you have attended college and those things that you've done, and then some point in your life you decided to become an entrepreneur. In your case, Tracy, entrepreneurship was in your family in terms of your father's business. Savannah, you look like you were on a mission, and so Keisha, you as well. And so first, let's talk, if we could, about what kind of inspired you to start that business in the retail space. And Savannah, let's start with you.
Well, thank you so much. This is such a great question. I am a first generation entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in a very middle class, solid middle class, two-parent household where everyone had a job. And I remember as a little girl, I always played on the floor with my dolls and tea sets. I had these lavish tea parties and coffee parties, and I would invite all my brothers and sisters because I'm the youngest of seven.
Okay.
And literally, I watched all of them finish school and get jobs. And I remember in my tea parties, I used to say, this cannot be it. It has to be more to life
Mm-hmm.
than just that. And I knew going into high school when guidance counselors asked, well, what do you want to do for a living? And I said, I don't know. I just love having these tea parties and these coffees, socials. And she said, well, that's called hospitality. And
Mm.
so at that time, this was pre-internet, I went to the library and stayed the entire weekends at the library until I had discovered this commercial that had these cherry blossoms. And I said, what's a cherry blossom? Went back to the library, looked up for schools that had cherry blossoms, and the great Howard University showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so at the time, Howard had a full service hospitality program. So I knew once I had been accepted into Howard, they had a full service hotel, that entrepreneurship was going to be the way for me. So it
That's
was never a question in my mind, it was a matter of when.
Savannah, where did you grow up?
I grew up in upstate New York.
Okay, so you made your way down to DC in order to do that. So I'm going to come back to you in a moment because I'm real curious as to the tea parties, how that translated to the to the coffee piece, and where you. I don't know about you, but growing up, I could, it was a couple, and I'm telling my age, but there was a couple things you smelled in the morning. You smelled coffee, and for in my household, you smelled cigarettes. But there was and I have southern roots. And so that's the kind of thing that you kind of smelled in the morning. I'm gonna come back in the coffee piece in just a moment. And Akeisha, let's go to you because I don't, you know, black don't crack, but you kind of look a little young to me. And so, in that sense, and so I am intrigued and impressed that in 2022 that you decided to start the Sweet Tea of Life. And so, give us some sense of what that was for you, that decision to, you're at, let me see, what school were you in? You were at Hampton.
No, Bennett College.
Akeisha, I'm sorry. It looks like Akeisha may be a little bit frozen. Akeisha, can you hear me?
I can, yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Uh, Now we can hear you. I was asking you about your life journey because for you, you were entrenched in finances. So somewhere along the line, you were one of the smart girls that sat in the front of the class and you knew all the math answers. And you went to that's a talent and skill. And you're blessed with understanding the ins and outs of the finance world. How did you translate that into then going into business?
So, as an operational accountant analyst at a law firm in DC,
Okay.
I guess my journey is a little bit linked to Savannah's. I was at work and I don't really like coffee, but I can drink coffee if I add a lot of flavor, French vanilla cream in it and sugar. So people would like swarm around me and watch me make my coffee because I would add like 12 packs of sugar to 6 to 8 ounces of French vanilla cream to 4 ounces of coffee. So it all piled back to my childhood when I liked to add sugar in my milk. And so people were like, you should drink tea. And so you won't have to add so much cream and sugar to your coffee. And doing so, I tried the tea and I didn't like it. So I was like, what's the point if I have to still add cream and sugar to my tea? So
Okay.
I fell in love with afternoon tea wear. And so as I would watch it, it would really like make my heart smile. So it would calm my mind, my spirit. And so a coworker and I attended a local tea room. And when the server came, she asked, what kind of tea do you like? And I said, well, I don't like tea. Can you serve me the tea that you would serve a child? And so she served me this tea, and as I drank it, I was like, wow, I didn't have to add any sugar, any honey, or anything to it. And so what I've learned is that I like loose leaf organic tea. So so I was wondering the comparison between the two. So
Okay.
the pandemic happened. This was at the heart of the pandemic. So the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic happened. We were home working, and so I just started studying loose leaf tea and watching all of Jane Austen's movies that were coming on. So I'm falling in love with the afternoon tea wear. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to have that set. I have to find that set, you know. And so the more and more I wanted the afternoon tea wear, I wanted to learn about tea. So I started attending
More
tea
about
tasting
tea.
classes. So I started to
Okay. Okay.
take tea
Very good.
tasting classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very. Okay. Very, very good. Akeisha, can you hear me okay?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. So you were you said with an accounting firm, correct? Did you
Yeah.
find that the
No law
finance
firm.
we were a law firm, but you were doing the accounting piece for it? Okay.
Yes.
Did you find that that helped you in terms of your decision to go into business?
The pandemic did.
Okay. But your financial background helped you?
Oh, yeah. So I was able to
Okay.
do all the financial paperwork that you all needed for the certification
Yep.
process, and it was easier for me because I have my accounting background.
Okay. One last question, Akeisha. Where did you go to school? Where did you get your MBA?
I got my MBA from UDC, and I went to Bennett College for undergrad.
Okay, that's what I did not have. Now I'm going over to the Hampton University graduate, and that's Tracy Richardson, Lilies of Charleston. And full disclosure, I have your products in my house. I'm going to have everybody else's as well. but I know that Tracy, you have been at this for a minute. And so, as we talked to Savannah in terms of the hospitality piece, which was kind of like a transition for her, when she always knew she wanted to go into business, the pandemic influenced Aikisha. Was your father's business that, and the opportunity to go into business with your sister, that influence for you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And so we started in the Lilies of Charleston piece in 2001, but the story actually goes back much, much further with my father, who grew up as a short order cook, cooking in the kitchen with his mother and his aunt Lily, who we named the company after.
Ah, okay.
So, food as a Southern family. He was in the service in New Jersey. We spent our Sunday dinners with Aunt Lily, and we were basically at her table all the time as a second generation, basically eating, cooking with love, and just spending time as family. And so that's where our home motto comes from, the whole name of the company. And so he had his restaurant in the mid 80s in downtown Charleston on King Street, which is the main strip of town. And so when the restaurant closed, people were still asking for all of his sauces and spices because these are all his original recipes.
So
Um,
it's literally this secret sauce.
exactly. Exactly.
Are you kidding?
So my sister and I in 2001 said, "Well, let's just bottle it because we didn't want to do that hard work anymore of being a restaurateur and doing that endless hours. We were like, we could still do something to honor Dad and to sell the sauces, and that's
Mhm.
kind of how we got started.
And what year was that?
That was 2001.
Okay. I'm impressed with your background in terms of Carnegie Mellon and what you did as a graduate of Hampton. How did that influence? I mean, how did that help in that preparation of entrepreneurship for you?
Yeah, so my background is in arts and arts management.
Hmm.
That's how that started. Because I have a creative background, and so you can see like from our background, like the labels and some of the design work, a lot of the marketing. That's where my influence comes. It's a family-owned business, so my husband has background in product management. My sister has a background also in marketing and doing like some more like finance, supply chain. So everybody has their strength that they're able to bring a piece of their strength to the table.
Okay, and you decided to name it Lily's after your aunt Lily. Um, what did she think about that?
She actually, unfortunately, she was not around when we first
Okay.
got started. She
Okay.
had her health had started to decline. She had dementia, and we weren't able to tell her. But we
Mm,
know she'd be very proud because when we graduated college, she was so excited and proud of us as women to have made, such progress in our lifetime that she was not able to, to do. She didn't attend college, but she was very, very proud of us as women.
okay. I want to come back in a moment just to talk about how you went from duplicating your father's recipe to the whole line, and we're looking at behind you, and you can get supersized too, of stuff that you that you have, and how you come up. So I'm hearing your sister's marketing, your husband's product development, and some of the I love the names of it. I want to talk about some of the names of your products as well. But Savannah, let's go back to you for just a moment in terms of how did you come up with Sunday morning roasting company, and given the coffee business, how did you decide? How have you been successful in competing in that space?
So, although I loved my tea sets, it was always filled with coffee.
Hmm.
Always. Coffee's always the choice. Back in the day, they had subscriptions in the back of magazines. So I would look on the back of Good Housekeeping and
Hmm.
Southern Living, and you could literally subscribe. And I was 13 with my first coffee subscription to International Coffees and to Javelia.
Wow.
So this goes,
Oh, I
so
love
coffee
that. I
has,
remember that one.
do you
Yes.
remember? Do you remember? Had the
Yeah.
nice red and white and blue. That those were the original coffee subscriptions. And so at
Okay.
13, I had my first subscriptions. So that's why the coffee parties were always in my finest tea sets. And I knew that on Sundays, it's interesting, listen to Tracy, Sundays are coveted for our family. That
Mm-hmm.
was the day we had the lavish spreads. Mom would cook all day Saturday after washing and
Yes.
straightening the hair.
Yes.
And right after church, we'd
We're
all
telling
run
who we are.
home.
Yes.
That is sacred. And that's when we were able to use the fine china.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when life seemed to just be in perfect alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finally settled on the perfect coffee bean, there is no hour better in the 7 days a week than Sunday morning.
Oh, I love that.
That's where it is.
Look, I love that.
That's where it is.
That's
So
where it
we
is.
give our customers that Sunday morning experience in every cup.
Okay. And I read where you traveled. And so you were that person in the library, always researching, always doing something. You were driven. And so you literally tell us about that in terms of in search of that coffee um, that would be good enough to for you to product size.
Sheer determination because
Hmm.
coffee is a white male dominated industry.
Okay.
And so when I'm coming in asking, can I meet your roaster? Can I take a tour? They're looking at me as if they've seen someone else from a different planet. But
Yes.
that didn't matter to me because I knew what I was there for. And so I got a lot of no's. And all of those rejections literally fuels me to get to every yes that I got to. So
Mm.
that's why I really want to encourage when you hear that no, you should celebrate because that
Hmm.
no is pushing you to that yes. And the few quality yeses I've gotten got me to the perfect roaster that aligns with our company. So I thank every one of those roasters that denied me interest, and every one of the coffee fields that would not allow me. I thank them because if it had not been for that, I may have been with the wrong partners. So
Hmm.
I really appreciate knowing and sharing that determination is essential because you're going to need that to make sure that what you really believe in, everyone understands. And so finding that roaster was really easy because of that determination. It pushed me right to him.
And it sounds like preparation and determination and understanding that no's are of value in the building of your company sounds essential as well.
Absolutely, President Pender, because you have to build up a certain level of resilience. Resilience, you have to have that in being an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
You have to have that hide where that stuff doesn't penetrate your power.
And that is so. And don't you find that it's especially that message that you're saying? I see that as headlines because as women, we tend to be sensitive to that piece, but as an entrepreneur, there's no room for it. But is that what I'm hearing from you? I'm seeing Tracy
Emphatically.
nod her head too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Um,
Emphatically. We
mhm.
cannot afford to allow a word from another human being to cross over into who we know we are.
Mm,
Mm.
say that again.
We
Yes, yes.
cannot afford to allow a word from another human being to cross over into who we know we are.
You know what? You
Mm.
know what? It could not. I'm sitting here thinking because I'm dealing with my granddaughter and self-esteem. We need to teach that right early on because we're taught sometimes to be as little um, on the sideline. We're taught not to like be forceful in that and just as the nature of who we are. But I love that, and that's a great lesson. And so thank you for kind of sharing that. So tell me in terms of the setup that you have, because the team that you've had to amass in order to get your done, the relationships with vendors, I would imagine the manufacturing part. How long did that take you to actually put in place?
It probably took me about 6 or so months
Mm-hmm.
to finally, because again, I'm a planner. When you have a plan, you work the plan.
Gosh,
So I didn't just wake up and decide to do this. I knew what I was looking for. I knew also my philosophy, I do not settle for anything. If it does not align with what my goals and my values are, it is just a no. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're confident in who you are and what you are, you don't settle. You just keep going until you get exactly what you want. And I encourage that in every area of life. You should never settle for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the team we have works, because I didn't settle anywhere. The
Mm-hmm.
relationships we have, our partnerships,
oh
they
my
work.
gosh.
And so that applies in every area of the business.
Okay, that's perfect. Tracy, how do you relate to what Savannah has said in terms of the building of your business? And how did you start with just your key product of your dad's sauce and parlay that into the that fabulous line? I mean, you look like you rival McCormick's to me. I'm impressed out of my mind. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with everything Savannah has been saying, and stand behind, because it takes time. I joke with people, we're 21 year overnight success. So it takes time to build. We started with, my husband has a background also in research and development chemistry, so he
Wow.
stood next to my dad, watched him make the recipes when he wrote it down, and then we had to take it from that stage where you make it at home to a co-packer. And we started really with like the retail sizes. So we took it and we started with one co-packer. We were able to do tasting. It takes several months a lot of times to make sure that the flavor and that the ingredients, because we're all natural, a lot of our products are low in sodium. We had to make sure that some of the products that you would get on the shelf, he could source in a larger scale. So it takes a little time to sort of build. And we did, first we started with retail, next we moved into food service, and then now we're up to about four co-packers and building. So it takes a lot of
Wow.
time to be able to do a supply chain, because we're national with Cisco. We do a lot of retail distributors. So it takes time to build that infrastructure.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So you're still headquartered in South Carolina?
Yes, in Charleston.
In Charleston, and do you and so have you extended beyond that point in terms of locations, or you're still there?
No, we're still in headquarters. This is where our office is, but a
Hmm.
lot of our co-packers are all over the country. So you've got one in Alabama,
Okay.
one in Illinois, two here in the South Carolina region, and then we're growing, like I said, with some additional that co-packers we're looking at today, because we're expanding our product line, because we now do popcorn with our seasonings on it. So
Is that right? Okay. Okay. So we can go to everybody's website to find out more about that, right? And so
right.
Savannah talked about she's sounds like she's very, I get the impression that she's very organized, and she's a visionary in terms of how she sees things in terms of moving forward. How did you make the decisions around when it was time to expand that line? And then I also want to talk to both of you all about how did you survive COVID, but how did you make the decision as to when it was time to expand? And Keisha, I'm coming to you. I know that you're the newest product person, and I'm hoping that there are some lessons in what we're
Yes.
hearing today as well. Tracy,
I'm
I'm sorry.
I'm I'm looking forward to listening to it and reaching out to both of them,
Mm-hmm.
mentorship for some advice on product management as well. But speaking of hospitality, I had an opportunity to work with a local GM in DC who wants to give my samples out in a gift set to sell to their VIP guests when they book in groups. So that's one thing that I'm excited about,
Very good.
to have my product to local organizations and organizations in other states as well that will be staying at that hotel, and they will all get my products.
Oh,
So,
that's wonderful.
yeah,
Congratulations. Because
thank
I'm sure
you.
these ladies can tell you about in terms of when, who was your first retail, Savannah? Where did you first go in?
Wegmans.
Wegmans? Okay.
Wow.
And Tracy, as I was, if I can come back to the question around how did you make the decision when it was time to launch those product lines?
Yeah, a lot of it happened organically because we would be, we started out with the hot sauce and with the two mustard barbecue sauces. Like you said, Hot Mussy is our hot
Did I
mustard
say
barbecue.
that right? I must say.
Yeah, you said it right. Hot Mussy. And then the finger licking is our mild mustard barbecue. We started out with just those three. And Low Country Loco is our hot sauce. Um, sorry, four, because we did a mild version and a hot version. And our mild version of our hot sauce is special blend. And so we started out with just those, and we would sell it in the like local marketplaces, regional grocery stores like Food Lion and Harris Teeter and Publix are some of our first grocery stores. We started with that, and then as we do samplings at festivals, we had to
Hmm.
figure out how do we introduce our spices, and so we couldn't cook up chicken for one of the festivals. Was like 40,000 people were coming, and we were like, oh, we better put this on popcorn or something like that. And that's how we got into the popcorn because people
Mm.
just kind of lost their minds with the
Wow.
seasoned popcorn. They're like, this is really good. And
Hmm.
you're selling the seasoning for them to take home and put it on whatever protein they wanted. And they wanted to put it on their own popcorn. So we were like,
Okay. I can certainly imagine that. Um, and so, how is it, Tracy, in terms of um, working with family, working with your husband, working with your sister? How's that?
it's great because as you all know, when I've been in the workforce for I'm not even gonna date myself many years.
Hmm.
You work with people outside of your family,
Hmm.
and you know that the challenges of having to be able to showcase yourself and wanting to be promoted and having an idea that people don't want to align with.
Or give you credit for. I get it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. So it's so much more pleasurable to be able to work with family who have some of the same goals, who want some of the same things for yourself, for themselves. And our dream is to create a legacy for the next generation. That's
Okay.
really kind of what it's about.
Okay. Akeisha, it seems like you had the wherewithal to not only look at the tea side of it, but who's your target audience for the etiquette side? It's like, am I holding it correctly? Who's your target audience for that, and how's that
So
working?
the target audience for that side are the youth. And it started with a cousin because it wasn't my focus. Tea, actually, selling tea wasn't my focus. I wanted to teach tea ceremony to my family and friends, and I was learning about it. During the pandemic, but because
Okay.
I would have them on afternoon tea parties on Zoom, and I would make custom blends for them and drop it off and deliver it to them. And so my cousin wanted to have a tea party for her granddaughter, and they wanted to go to a local tea etiquette person, but she wasn't available. So she was like, "You're always sharing about tea and talking about tea etiquette online. Can you come and host our tea party?" And I was like, oh no. And so I started studying about tea etiquette and hosted the party for 5-year olds. And that's how it started. And
Hmm.
so actually, hosted events for local organizations as well via Zoom when we were still in the pandemic, and had tea history and tea etiquette, where I would teach them the place setting and afternoon tea history. So, but it started from my cousin asking me to be a tea etiquette and party host for her granddaughter's birthday party.
Sound like a franchising idea to me. So, so where do you see it? I know you just started in 2022, but what's the end goal for you? You know, how do you claim success?
My end goal for me is to be global.
Mm,
I want everyone to experience the healthy benefits of tea. I mean, it can help you, the herbal blends too. Mostly I sell herbal tea blends. Um, I have people call in telling me that their body feels better. They're relaxed when they're drinking my teas. They had a cold and they felt better instantly overnight. And my goal is to help everyone become a tea lover like myself. When I have my 10-year-old son asking me to make mint tea for him when he didn't like tea at first, like me. So that
mm-hmm,
is what gives me joy. I have a best friend who was like me that said that tea tastes like water to her. But when I have a signature blend called Lady Akeisha. It's all of my favorite herbs mixed together to help with your different health elements that I was dealing with at the time. And so when she tried it, she was like, "Oh wow, this is good." And I was like, "I made it." Like, to have someone like me say that they enjoyed the tea,
mm-hmm.
I felt like that was a sense of accomplishment for her and my son, because the majority of my friends and family are tea lovers, so they like the tea blends that I make. But to have someone become a tea lover or enjoy a tea blend that I made is what gives me
A great
great
satisfaction. Well,
satisfaction.
good
Yes.
for you. You're so inspiring. So your teas are mostly used for as hot teas. Do you also do the iced teas as well?
So majority of my tea blends can be iced or served hot.
Mm-hmm.
um, Lady Akeisha and Blue Ivy Mint Tea, I take those to vending events where I would serve them in tasting cups, cold, chilled, and I would record people tasting it. I had one girl dancing. She was just like, "Oh my God, this is so good," and started dancing around the table.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually would blend a sample and have them at the vending events and serve them to potential customers.
Okay. My
Hmm.
mother is be 96 in May, and she is a sweet tea fanatic. And so to the if you ever get to the point that you're selling half gallons or something of sweet tea, let me know.
Okay.
Because you have an instant customer.
Thank you.
No problem. This is just wonderful. Savannah, anything else you'd like to add in terms of you've given us some great nuggets. Anything else in terms of where do you see Sunday morning roasting company going? What's next steps for you?
So our next steps is to definitely be inside more of our Fortune 50, Fortune
Okay.
10, and 5 offices, and also to their team members as companies continue to have remote staff, which we truly believe will be the permanent hybrid scenario where we have many of our corporate partners, they order coffee to send to their remote team members because, again, it's quality. They are providing that experience to assist with great performance. It's amazing how, when you see coffee breaks, that it is a reset. That's what the whole concept was, that having coffee break rooms or kitchens inside offices was to allow team members to go in and kind of reset. And one of the things that we saw was in those 5 minutes, if you have a quality cup of coffee, it is
Mm.
amazing the difference of the mindset going back into that project, going back into that meeting. Think about coffee is one of the few things people drink when it's bad.
Hmm.
The strangest phenomenon, but people literally drink intentionally bad coffee. It's one of the few things. And so that's what we often are faced with is people, especially in the Black community, there's a huge educational gap about coffee and tea, Aikisha, that our culture, we're not aware of the power of the commodities of coffee and tea.
Mm,
This has
mhm,
been centuries old since the beginning. The
Hmm.
birthplace of coffee and tea is Africa, Ethiopia. That's
Yes.
where it begins. So
Yes.
we don't realize how powerful that was in the trade slave. And so it's important for us to know and understand the power of the history of the coffee. And also, it's a multi-trillion-dollar business,
Yes.
right.
multi-trillion-dollar business.
Hmm.
And we are nowhere in those percentages. So our company is only one of 9% of Black women-owned coffee companies in the country. So we are really important in really prioritizing educating the community, especially communities of color, about coffee and tea, because that often gets you the invitation to that meeting.
Yes.
So I want you all, as you move into the future, I need you all to come up with a menopause solution of coffee and tea.
I do
Okay.
have a blend.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Tracy, where are you going in the future?
So we have big, big dreams. I would love for our company to be one of the top CPG consumer product goods companies in America. We're expanding in our condiments line. We've got some sugar-free products we're hoping to introduce soon. We've expanded with the recent Chucktown Stinger sauce, which is our hot sauce and honey, which is on trend with, the hot honeys. We're looking at doing rice. So we want to expand,
Ooh,
popcorn, which are now going to be in snacks. So we want to be across all the grocery aisles with Lilies of Charleston.
very good. Listen, I applaud all of you. I really applaud. I'm just so blessed to have the opportunity to have this conversation. But before you leave, if I can just ask you one more thing, because sometimes we want to kind of share. All of you are certified with the National Minority Supply Development Council. We of course are the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council. Is there any advice that you can give other minority owned businesses in terms of their involvement with the council? I would certainly appreciate that. Anyone like to begin with that?
I can certainly begin. Maximize this certification. First of all, the certification is a differentiator. That is number one. So when you go into that table, you should make sure that that is stated in your first 30 seconds because it is nationally known. Second, the other side of that is most companies you're probably going up against to compete cannot get the certification. So you really need to maximize you having that. Also, the opportunities for education, to network, to collaborate, to joint venture is plenteous. Please do not skip over the emails. Respond to the emails, connect. The directory is available to you. Ensure you're in the directory. So you want to maximize the resources that NMSDC provides you every day.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to share?
Yes, I would say that it's echo again everything Savannah says, but I want to add that make sure you are present. Make sure you have every council that you are involved in knows who you are, that you attend meetings, that you go to matchmaking. That is how you get in the forefront. The CRMSDC has been instrumental in getting us in so many different accounts. And just because they are aware that we are present and that they can use our products to give in gift baskets, it's just a phenomenal opportunity for awareness and people to know who you are.
Okay. Now, Keisha, I know that you're relatively new. Any advice for folks thinking about certification?
I would say have your finances in order first. Because you definitely need your finances in order to be accepted into the program. But I definitely agree, it's a differentiator and awareness. I was able to donate some tea samples at the party um, last year. Also, working with people, they ask, "Are you certified?" So I'm currently working with an organization, and they wanted to know that I had my clean hand certification, and was I also certificate, and also any certification. So I was able to tell them that I had my minority business certification and women's business certification. So that
Okay.
already gave me extra points to be considered for the opportunity to work with them as a tea vendor for my company,
Well,
a
very,
government
very good.
entity. Yes.
Very, very good. This has been a pleasure. I hope this is not our last conversation, ladies. Be great to just get together. And I'm going to get me some coffee. I'm going to taste some tea and popcorn with the sauce.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. Thank you again for all you do, for making the sacrifice to be entrepreneurs, and in order to help create close that gap in terms of creating wealth in this country. You are to be congratulated and to be admired, and we appreciate you so much. So thank you. Thank you very, very much. And
Thank
ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the conversation with coffee, tea, and hot sauce, and as we end this episode of Hot Chat. But before we go, I'd like to make sure, again, that we thank our sponsors as we wrap this up. And I'd like to let's for those who are listening and don't have the visual, for you to see who we're talking about: AARP, Amazon, AT&T, BAE Systems, BWI, Thurgood Marshall Airport, Cigna, the City of Baltimore, the DC Department of Small Local Business Development, Dominion Energy, Fielison Group, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FRS, the Hilton Hotel, the Huntington Ingalls Industry, Horseshoe, Leidos, Lockheed Martin, M&T Bank, the State of Maryland Governor's Office of Small and Minority Businesses, McCormick, Northrop Grumman, Parsons, Peapod, Prince George's County Office of Central Services, Proven Management, SAIC, Sodexo, T. Rowe Price, Truist, the United States Postal Service, the University of Maryland College Park, the University of Maryland Global Campus, Washington Gas, the Metro, Zillion Technologies, and Zones. To learn more about our upcoming programs, visit our website at www.crmsdc.org, or if you've missed any of our past Hot Chat podcasts, and we've done a few, whether it was Kathy Hughes, which we've gotten great feedback on that, or Bob Johnson, or Emmett Smith, or others, you can go to www.crmsdccares.com. But any of those websites, you can get that. Don't forget to like us, follow us, and share this episode on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You may also subscribe to our channel on YouTube at CRMSDC is our handle, and notifications on upcoming discussions. And don't forget that our podcast can be also listened to on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Before I close, let me extend a special thanks to our Coronavirus Response and Relief Center and our media production team behind the scenes. So thank you to our executive producer, Sonia Bigelow Smith, our creative director, Nicole Miles, our production folks with, of course, Renee Sanford, and Graybo Solutions for making this an exciting episode today. And so until next time, we don't know what we're going to do. Coffee, tea, and hot sauce. See you next time.